Galio is often treated as one of the easiest champions in Demacian lore to understand. A colossal stone guardian, wings like fortress walls, a voice like thunder, a protector that wakes when magic appears and crashes into battle like a living siege tower. At a glance, he seems almost too clear. He is the anti-mage statue, the giant weapon of a kingdom built on fear of magic, the spectacular answer Demacia gives to supernatural danger. It is a strong image, and it works instantly. But if you stop there, you miss what makes Galio one of the most fascinating and strangely human characters in all of Demacia's story. Because Galio is not just a statue that punches harder than everyone else. He is a paradox carved into stone. He was made to resist magic, and yet magic is the very thing that gives him life. He is built as a symbol of Demacia's protection, but his existence exposes Demacia's contradictions more clearly than almost any speech or law ever could. He is meant to stand above the city as certainty, strength, defense, unbreakable purpose, and yet the most interesting thing about him is not certainty at all. It is the strange, fleeting, fragile relationship he has with life itself. Galio is a guardian who only truly lives in the presence of the thing his people fear. That alone would be enough to make him interesting, but Galio's lore goes deeper than concept. At the center of his character is a loneliness unlike almost anyone else in Runeterra. Not the loneliness of exile. Not the loneliness of being misunderstood in a crowd. Galio's loneliness is temporal. He wakes for moments of crisis, for flashes of conflict, for brilliant surges of magic and danger, and in those moments he becomes vivid, curious, expressive, even joyful in his own overwhelming way. Then the battle ends. The magic fades. Time moves on without him. He returns to stillness while generations rise, age, and disappear. That rhythm gives his story a haunting emotional weight. Galio is not simply a protector of Demacia. He is a witness to it in fragments. He does not live in a continuous flow of days the way humans do. He experiences history like lightning, bright awakenings, incomplete conversations, names he barely has time to learn, bonds formed under fire, and then long silence. Imagine caring for a place deeply while only ever touching it during its worst moments. Imagine waking again and again to save people who see you as a legend, while everything familiar changes between one breath and the next. That is Galio's existence, and that is why he is far more than a big stone hero. In a lesser story, a character like Galio would exist only for spectacle. He would be the emergency giant, the dramatic entrance, the crowd-pleasing protector. But League's lore gives him something rarer: perspective. Galio is massive, yes, but he is not emotionally flat. He has wonder. He has humor. He has a kind of innocent seriousness that makes him feel noble without becoming stiff. He can be awe-inspiring and oddly endearing in the same scene. That combination matters because it transforms him from a war machine into a character whose existence asks difficult questions. What does it mean to be created for one purpose and then become more than the people who created you expected? What does it mean to protect a society when your very life depends on the force that society fears? And what happens when a nation turns a contradiction into a hero because the contradiction is useful? Galio embodies all of this. To understand why he works so well in Demacia specifically, you have to look at Demacia not only as a kingdom of knights and banners, but as a culture built around fear as much as honor. Demacia speaks in the language of protection, justice, and order. It values discipline, strength, and duty. But beneath those ideals runs a deep anxiety about magic, an anxiety that is not entirely irrational in a dangerous world, yet often hardens into suspicion, repression, and cruelty. Demacia wants safety so badly that it begins to treat uncertainty itself as a threat. That tension defines many of its best stories. Galio stands directly inside that tension. He is not an outsider standing at the gate accusing Demacia from afar. He is one of its proudest symbols. Towers rise in his image. Legends are told about his battles. He is celebrated as a guardian of the realm. And yet the source of his power is the exact thing Demacia seeks to control, contain, or reject. In Galio, Demacia accidentally reveals a truth about itself. It does not simply hate magic. It fears uncontrolled magic, unknown magic, magic that refuses to serve its terms. Galio is tolerated, even adored, because his relationship to magic appears to support Demacia's idea of order. He uses magic's presence to awaken, and then he turns that awakened power toward protection. But the irony remains. Demacia's great anti-magic sentinel is alive because of magic. This irony is not a small detail. It is the heart of his thematic power. Through Galio, the lore shows that Demacia is not divided into clean categories of pure and corrupt, safe and dangerous, acceptable and forbidden. The kingdom depends on contradictions. It survives through them. It hides inside them. And sometimes, as with Galio, it builds monuments out of them. That is why he is such a brilliant character for long-form storytelling. He lets you talk about Demacia's ideals and Demacia's blind spots at the same time, without forcing him into cynicism or making him a secret villain. Galio is not there to condemn the region. He is there to reveal it. And he reveals it in a very unusual way through joy. That is another part of his character people often overlook. Galio is not written as a grim golem trapped in an existential nightmare. He can be exuberant. He can be eager. He can take real delight in battle because battle means wakefulness, motion, purpose, contact. To a human, war is horror, exhaustion, grief. For Galio, battle is also the rare state in which he gets to be alive, to speak, to act, to feel time moving around him. This creates one of the most bittersweet tensions in his story. The moments that are worst for everyone else are often the moments in which Galio becomes most fully himself. That does not make him cruel. It makes him tragic in a gentle, strange way. He does not love suffering. He loves being needed. He loves the chance to protect. He loves the world in motion, because motion means consciousness. There is something profoundly moving in that. Galio is a being whose existence is tied to crisis, and yet he is not defined by bitterness toward that fact. He meets life when life arrives. He throws himself into purpose when purpose is given. Then, when the magic drains away, he returns to stillness. The pathos is not in him complaining. The pathos is in the silence after. A lot of immortal or long-lived characters in fantasy are written around superiority, detachment, or despair. Galio is different. He is ancient in a way, but not detached. He is powerful, but not aloof. He is monumental, but not emotionally inaccessible. In some ways, he feels more like a child of war and wonder than an old philosopher king. He sees things with freshness because he experiences the world in fragments. He can be wise in function and innocent in feeling at the same time. That gives him a unique emotional register. He is a giant protector whose heart is not hardened by ages, because he does not live those ages continuously. This is where Galio becomes unexpectedly human. Not because he is human in body or lifespan or social life, he is obviously not, but because his story touches on deeply human themes in unusual form: purpose, loneliness, usefulness, belonging, and the fear of becoming only what others need from you. Galio is adored when he is active and useful. He is monumental when he is still. He is symbol and savior both. But what is he to himself? A weapon? A guardian? A friend of Demacia? A living being with his own way of experiencing the world? The lore does not always answer these questions directly, and that is part of what makes him so rich. He feels larger than a simple role. His connection to Demacian people also matters here. Galio is not just the kingdom in abstract. He protects real individuals, soldiers, civilians, mages, non-mages, young and old, who experience him as miracle, myth, shield, and force of nature. Imagine being a terrified recruit on a battlefield and seeing a mountain-shaped guardian descend in thunder to defend you. Imagine growing up on stories of Galio, then living long enough never to see him move, only to realize one day that he is watching over your city in silence. For ordinary people, Galio is not merely political symbolism. He is emotional reality. He represents hope in moments where hope is otherwise collapsing. And that gives his story another layer. responsibility without continuity. Human guardians can build relationships over time. They can mentor, remember, apologize, change, return. Galio's relationships are often brief, intense, and interrupted by years of stillness. He cannot sustain ordinary bonds the way people can. He cannot walk through the city every day and learn its rhythms like a living citizen. Yet he still becomes part of Demacia's moral imagination. In a way, he is both deeply present and permanently absent. The kingdom projects meaning onto him, reveres him, relies on him, and then lives entire eras while he sleeps. He is at once a participant in Demacian life and a monument outside it. That tension makes him one of the most elegant examples of a character who is both person and symbol without collapsing into either category. If he were only a person, the mythic scale would shrink. If he were only a symbol, the emotional core would disappear. Galio works because he is both a living contradiction with a voice and personality and a nation-sized idea about protection, fear, and power. And then there is the question of magic itself. Galio is one of the best characters in Demacian lore for discussing magic without reducing the conversation to magic good, anti-magic bad. His existence complicates everything. Magic is what wakes him. Magic is what empowers his defense. Magic is also what Demacia fears because magic, in Runeterra, can indeed be destructive, destabilizing, and catastrophic in the wrong hands or under the wrong conditions. Galio does not erase that fear. He reframes it. Through him, the lore suggests that the issue is not simply the existence of magic, but the way societies choose to relate to it, through panic, through domination, through denial, or through something more mature and honest. Galio is, in some ways, an accidental argument for complexity. He proves that what Demacia fears may also be what saves it. He proves that power and protection are not always cleanly separated. He proves that the categories people build for safety can fail under real pressure. A kingdom can try to define itself by opposition to magic and still depend on a magical reality at its center. That is not just good fantasy design. It is good storytelling, because it reflects how real societies often work. They build identities around clear values, then survive by negotiating contradictions they do not want to admit. This is why Galio is such a rewarding subject for a serious lore essay. On the surface, he offers scale and spectacle. Underneath, he offers philosophy without becoming abstract, pathos without becoming melodrama, and symbolic depth without losing the fun of a giant stone sentinel crashing into battle. He can anchor an episode about Demacia's fear. He can anchor one about purpose and identity. He can anchor one about time, memory, and fragmented life. He can even anchor one about joy in unlikely places. Very few champions can do all of that while still feeling unmistakably iconic. If you look closely, Galio's greatest strength is not just his size, durability, or anti-magic function. It is his narrative shape. He is built from opposites held together without resolution. Stone and life, weapon and guardian, anti-magic symbol and magic-born consciousness, monument and friend, sleep and awakening, fear and hope. Most characters are defined by conflict they experience. Galio is defined by conflict he embodies. He is the contradiction standing in the center of Demacia's skyline, visible to everyone, fully understood by almost no one, and maybe that is exactly why he matters so much. In a region full of knights, crowns, laws, rebellions, and hidden powers, Galio reminds us that a nation's deepest truths are not always found in its speeches. Sometimes they are found in the things it builds to protect itself, in the symbols it trusts, in the contradictions it celebrates because they are useful. Galio is one of Demacia's proudest guardians and one of its clearest mirrors. That is what makes him unforgettable, not only because he can smash armies, not only because he is visually magnificent, not only because he is an iconic protector of Demacia, but because his story quietly asks one of the most important questions in all of Demacian lore: What if the thing your kingdom fears is already part of what keeps it alive? Galio does not answer that question with an argument. He answers it every time he wakes.